Hi, I'm Eric Beetner, and this is my writer's dossier.
No writers were harmed in the production of this podcast.
Seriously, okay. So Eric, you're a pro. Welcome to the Writer's Dossier, man. This is Eric Beetner. We've just been talking about some cool stuff. So welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me back.
It's great to have you back. A friend of the Dossier, 2 or 3 time. Here we try to cover all your books every time you have something come out. And folks, you don't know Eric Beetner. I mean, come on, get with the program. The Last Few Miles of Road, Real Bad, Real Soon, and A Wound That Will Not Heal. Carter McCoy, dude. There's so much to talk about, but I want to go back to what we were talking about just quickly. Writing today, there are new writers out there. There are a lot of mid writers out there who are mid career. So the spectrum is just full of different levels of success and types of books. What's your best advice right now? And I know things, are up and down all the time, but picture yourself at the LA film school and you've got a class full of, bright-eyed, bushy-haired tailed students. What advice do you have as we're going into 2026, 2027 down the road, things that can come up? What should they focus on, you think?
I think the idea of writing books in 2026 on one level seems crazy. Like, what are we doing? It's an almost antiquated art form at this point, which is a damn shame. And there are plenty of us out there trying to keep it alive, and it will survive. There's no doubt about it. Storytelling goes on. That's not in question. So my thing, I can't ever give anyone advice on how to sell a lot of books. I can't give anyone advice on how to work the pipeline to Hollywood, any of that kind of stuff, because there is no one solution. There's no magic bullet for any of that. Things connect with readers or they don't. It's timing. It's things that are out of your control. So I think my big advice to new writers is always to recalibrate your idea of what success is to you. For most writers, the success needs to live internally. It needs to be, I finished something, I'm proud of it, I know it's a good story, whatever that thing is. If you have the confidence in your own work, and if you understand that the victory is simply crossing the finish line and not mattering what place you came in, then that is what will sustain you, because everything else just becomes a sort of a self-defeating metric by which you can't measure yourself against other writers. You can't measure yourself against the history of a changing industry, any of these things. It's just a way towards being way too discouraged and feeling like you're not doing it, when every day you sit down at the keyboard, every day you add words into that manuscript is a successful day, and you are a writer in that moment, and you have done the work. Everything that happens after you type the end is 80% out of your control. So I think if you change your mindset of what you consider to be a success, you will find yourself succeeding a lot more.
That is fantastic, man. It's honest. It's encouraging. Podcast over, man. Everyone can take that and just jump into their manuscript and do it for the right reasons, and illusions of grandeur and daydreaming is one thing, and that's all fine and dandy. But if you don't love to write, and if you don't love to edit and figure it out and come up with something great, you've done that. You've done that a lot. And you, how many are we up to? I don't have enough fingers and toes to count. And I'm not going to say the number of publishers you have, but the plethora, the volume of body of work that you have. Folks watching on YouTube, you can see books and books stacked behind Eric Beetner here. I mean, they could be. How many are we up to? We're in the fees, aren't we? Or is it higher than that?
I think this is bad because I would have to sit back and do the math. I think A Wound That Will Not Heal is number 35.
Yeah.
And this is I always caveat that by saying some are very short, some are co-written with other authors. But yes, at the end of the day, I can stack up a huge pile of my books. Once the pile of books, if you add on all of the anthologies for, I'm over 150 short stories that have been published now at this point. So if you add all that up, it's taller than my kids, which, that's my measure of success right there.
Eric Beetner, the Norwegian. You contributed a story. I was going to ask you how many short stories, but you already answered it. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see Myopic Duplicity here. Eric Beetner, first one on the top of
Yeah,
the list there.
it's
Top
alphabetical. Let's face it.
top of the mountain. It is, but I loved your story because of I knew a little bit of the characters because you kind of give us a little prequel of some of your other characters that you've written, and you do such a good job. And first, thanks for that.
Sure.
But with all of that work and the advice that you just gave, where do you think where's the readers gone? I would venture to guess that there are fewer readers now, and or they're older. So does it just go back to, hey, don't write for the reader, write for yourself?
100%. Yeah, I think if you're chasing an audience in any art form, if you're trying to write a song for a mass audience, if you're trying to make a movie or any of those things, you're not being your genuine self, and all you end up doing is creating a version of something that already exists. Because the only way to chase an audience is to go after people that have already bought something or already expressed an interest in something that already exists. So just by the nature of the task that you're putting on yourself, you're just recreating something that somebody else has already done.
Right.
So I,
Right.
I think you have to tell a story that you want to be told. I mean, that's like all my books start with, an idea just sort of comes to you and you think, oh, I want to read that book. Well, no one else is going to write it. If I want to read it, I have to write it. So if you go in with that idea and think, well, if I want to read it, surely somebody else will.
But Eric Beetner's one of a kind.
Well, but look, I read books that I can talk to other people about it. Oh my God, wasn't this great? And didn't you love that? And we all say yes. Oh my gosh, this was wonderful. And that, so I get very discouraged sometimes when I do read a lot of books that are selling a ton and end up on a bestseller list, and I don't connect with that book. I'm always oh, it's
Yeah.
what is with me that I didn't love it as much as everybody else. And look, everybody connects with any kind of art. There are bands that people tell me I should love, and I just don't. That's art. That's what it is. So if you go chasing that as an artist,
Yeah.
you'll never create anything original. And I think really believe you'll never create anything that you truly feel passionate about, because if
It's
if
not
you're just
truly
trying
yours. You're doing it for somebody else. Yeah.
exactly, and if you're trying to if you want to be an artist, you don't go and do a paint by numbers of a Monet, and then you can't call yourself an artist with that. So it's like if I'm trying to imitate somebody else's writing style, well, then what's the point of that? People already have that. They've already got that on their shelf. Why do they want to read my version of it? And
Right.
then why do I want to spend my time creating a version of somebody else's story? Yeah. So it's tricky, but you finding your own voice is one of the most important, first steps in becoming a writer.
Well, that's a great answer too, and you've certainly found your own voice. And I think that's what you did with Carter McCoy in this series, and this is the third book, and this is the dramatic conclusion.
Yes.
Yes, folks, Carter McCoy is in, I don't want to say an unlikely protagonist, but he's different. And that's the kind of thing that's going to set you apart. And you read this and you're like, oh, wow, this is not totally unlike anything else ever, because there are shades of everything. But
Yeah.
folks, you should get into these Carter McCoy books. And Eric's written 3. This is the last one. Without any spoiler alerts or anything, what is Carter McCoy up to this time? Just to help people understand why he's different and how neat I think that I don't think there's anybody else out there right now like Carter McCoy.
Well, thank you. I hope not, because yeah,
Name one.
I want to write someone who's unique, and I think look, I've always been drawn to characters who are smaller in scale. He's an ordinary guy.
Yeah.
And I like writing about just average people who get then faced with an extraordinary circumstance. Carter, it's not a spoiler at all, because in page 1 of the first book, he finds out that he's dying. He's a man in his 70s, gets a diagnosis, does not have long to live. So I always knew it was going to be a trilogy. Pushing it much past that, I think, would kind of stretched credulity in a lot of ways. I'm like, "Yeah,
Love it.
let's not drag this out into 10 books and be like,
Carter McCoy at
any day now, I
88.
swear I'm going to drop dead."
Yeah.
But this third one was really, it was interesting the great thing about, if you having a long career, like, 35 books in, this one surprised me in a way that has not happened in any of my other books, because I went into it with an outline, with a story, with who the bad guys were in this one. And I started down that road and I realized my bad guys weren't bad enough. Part of that was the world around us and sort of the political situation that we find ourselves in. And I'm not trying to write a polemic. I'm not trying to make a statement. I'm not doing, I don't really bring a lot of real life into a lot of my books, but this one just felt like it was time to make a statement and maybe bring some of these elements in.
Mhm.
So my political beliefs and my, liberal and progressivism is not hard to find through, the social media footprint that we all have. So I'm an unabashed liberal, and I don't agree with the way that, specifically in this situation, the ICE situation is with immigration and all the stuff that this administration is doing. So the people that Carter is now going up against in this book are this group of sort of wannabe ICE agents who start snatching people off the streets in order to then turn them in for a bounty to the US government. And they're doing all of this stuff thinking that they have the power of of the presidency and the US government behind them to do these things that are clearly illegal and immoral. And I think all of us who read the headlines can see that this sort of thing is not that far from the truth. So, the other thing that I have to contend with a character like Carter is he's not a professional killer. He's not
Right.
someone who spent a lifetime doing this. He reluctantly fell into this role of vigilante, if you will, or, meting out justice where the system has failed. So I have to put him up against people that he can justify his own actions, his own moral code, to say these are people worth my efforts to seek justice. These are people who are doing bad enough things to innocent people that I can feel justified stepping in and doing actions that he knows are illegal. Yeah, I mean, he's in the business of hurting people and killing them sometimes. There's no way around that. So that kind of juxtaposition is one of the things that I love writing about him, and I love writing characters who do morally questionable things
Yes.
and yet still making the reader on their side. It's a really fun balancing act, and it's
Yes.
really gratifying when I hear from readers that it worked. you know?
Yes. No, it definitely worked in the short story that you wrote for me, and it works here too because people want, I think, well, there are all kinds of readers and they look for all kinds of different things. I get that, but
Yeah,
if you can find a protagonist who is a reluctant protagonist, and it's not like, okay, you twist my arm. No, I mean truly, like Carter is, and then some people who maybe do the wrong things for the right reasons. If you can
right.
paint that out and show that, yeah, the ends do, or the ends do justify the means, um, that's a conundrum that not only entertains people as they go through the story and follow the characters and the topics of what's going on, but
Yeah.
anything that you can make people think outside of the fiction story, yeah, bravo. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal, right? And to always have that, what would I do in that situation, feeling as you're reading through. Like, if someone is thinking that much that they're putting themselves into the story, then I think the writer really has done their job.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a matter now, going back to the publishing industry, of being able to get that stuff out there and get it in the hands of people who would be like, wow, wow, this really was really something. And folks, go to ericbeatner.com, get to know Eric, like I have. Super guy, and not just some writer hack. He actually has a lot of talent. Eric, you've done a lot of things, and I mean it, folks. Get to know Eric Beetner a little bit. Go out online, go to the writer's dossier, read up on a little bit of what I've discovered about him. You've worked in you can call Hollywood, SoCal, the industry, the film industry,
Yeah.
forever. And folks, just go out to Eric's social media. If you love old movies and art, I mean, your movie covers are amazing. That you have your collection, I think, is like 1,000 and something posters. Your content is so cool, and it's so refreshing. No one else is doing stuff like that. No one else that I know of creating characters like Carter McCoy. And you actually have a really cool background in film editing. You want to talk about that a little bit and what you're up to?
Yeah, I mean, I came, you know, especially in my writing and everything. I'm a film guy. I went to
Yeah.
film school. I knew early on that that's what I wanted to do. So I was that I worked in a video store. It was my job in high school. I was running around with a camcorder making short films with all my friends. And so,
So
like, the
far, you're
first thing that
describing Quentin Tarantino, but go ahead.
oh yeah, no,
You did the
all of
same
that stuff
thing.
that you hear about these other film people who got into it at I mean, look, I'm of a certain age, so I was
At
at
a certain age.
I'm part of sort of the Star Wars generation of kids that were inspired by
Yeah.
a type of film, and that just really intrigued me in every aspect of it. So I went to film school, quickly became interested in editing as a craft, and realized I was good at it. Helped some people out on their films, and then cutting my own films and stuff. And it's one of those. It's one of the crafts that's not everyone has a head for it. It's a very specific task. You have to be sort of kind of born and bred for it. But one of the interesting things about the cinema as an art, there are only two disciplines in the movies that are exclusive to cinema, and that is cinematography and editing. Everything
Oh,
else, you want to be an actor, you want to be a director, you want to do costumes, set design, you can do all that on the stage. You want to, acting, you can even do over radio where they don't even see your face. All of these things. But cinematography and editing, the only two things that exist only in this medium. And if you even take that a step further, cinematography is still photos made motion. Editing is something that did not exist until the invention of cinema. And when it first began, if you really look into the history of it, like, no one knew that it was even going to work. You look at the very early, like in the late 1800s, early 1900s, before editing existed, people were like, well, if we cut the film and we go from this scene to a close up, or from one room to another room, are people going to be confused? There was literally, they thought
yeah.
people might get like almost motion sick from how
Sure.
jarring it was. Like, so I've read a lot about editing as an art and craft in those early days, and how it's evolved so much. So I'm just in love with the craft of it all, and sort of the magic trick of when it actually works,
Yeah.
that juxtaposition of two images together, of the mixture of picture and sound in unity with each other, all of those things that really elevate anything. Cut to, I do most of my work in reality TV, so people take everything I say with a grain of salt. But it's still it's a very creative endeavor for me. I think, whether you want to admit it or not, I guarantee you've seen my work at some point or another, and
Well,
it's
how
been
many
a great career.
how many seasons of Amazing Race have you edited?
I have done 15 seasons of Amazing Race, which is even kind of a drop in the bucket with that, because we just finished season 39 of that show. That's been around for that long, which is insane.
Wild. And your personal passion project to re-edit 1932 Bela Lugosi's Dracula, is that's something that you're working on, or
no, no, man. Believe me, there are so many films that I wish I could get my hands on, but it's
yes,
mostly films from the last 20, 25 years that I'm like, oh, I want to
yeah,
take 20 minutes out of that thing. That's
yes.
just too long. I keep this. Oh, geez, I dropped it. I keep this
What do we got?
right on my. It's going to be. I keep this button
Make
right on my
movies shorter.
computer.
Yes. 87 minutes watch time. Thank you very much.
That is the sweet spot. And
It
look,
is.
I guarantee you, many, if not most, of your favorite movies are on the shorter side, and they still tell a completely realized, fully fleshed beginning, middle, and end with three-dimensional characters. All of that can and often happens within 90 minutes. And I feel the same way about books. Like you can get all of that in 250, 300 pages. You don't need 900 pages to tell like a complete story. I think that's nonsense anyway, but that again, it's personal taste. I just like
Page
life, tighter and shorter.
paging James Michener. All right, dude. You're fantastic, and like I said, I kind of feel like this is an end of an era because it is with Carter McCoy. We still want to have you on with whatever you're doing next. And I'm serious, folks. Go to Amazon or go to ericbeetner.com. Find the last book, A Wound That Will Not Heal, and just grab all three of them. These are edited. Eric has gotten them down to where you can grab all three.
Yeah.
It won't kill you. You're going to find someone I think that you're really going to enjoy. Eric, thanks for having us on, or thanks for coming on and giving of your time and being a part of this. And we
Of
can't
course.
wait to see what you're gonna get up to next. So hang in
Yeah.
there, buddy.
Oh, me either.
Yeah, well, hey, Felicity's still going to take off, and you're a big part of that. So,
All right.
thanks, man. EricBeetner.com. Eric's on Facebook, Instagram. Definitely go check him out. Eric Beetner. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. The Dossier Podcast is a production of The Idea Academy.